3,000 years of longing. That's right, folks. I did not imagine we would see an original thing from George Miller that wasn't Mad Max. I didn't think he'd want to do it, if that makes sense. The guy is currently 77. At the time he's making this film, he's around 75 age. So, you know, do we really want to give him some steam for anything? Like, if he just wants to sit back and says, Furiosa is where I'm going to end my career, I think we can all support that. But no, in between two Mad Max films, he says, I got something I could dig up from the little, like the pile of scripts I might have worked on in the past. So let's make 3,000 Years of Longing. MGM said, yeah, do it, man. Let's see what you got. And guess what? We got a really interesting film. I am doing a whole video talking about George Miller films. At the time of this video, it will be coming out soon. And I think this guy's one of the most interesting filmmakers out there because he's always just been on the other side of the studio. He's just like, I can work for you or I couldn't. I don't care. I'm just going to make whatever the hell I want. You can't stop me. Even if you just want me to make a kid's film, it's going to make you cry because it's really weird. So when he's like, I've talked about insane people in the outback. I've talked about pigs doing weird shit in a city. I've talked about dancing penguins. Now it's time for me to do the thing I've never done in my career. That is genies and Djinn. And you're like, okay, I guess you haven't done that. Why do you want to? Interesting. So let's put it like this. 3,000 Years of Longing is going to be a film that is very divisive. I understand why anybody could watch this and be like, this was boring and drawn out. I never want to see this again. Or they could be like, wow, we don't make films like this anymore. I am somewhere in the middle. I agree with both of those things. Watching this film, my first thought was, oh, this is a filmmaker. Sometimes you watch like modern Zemeckis or anything with Spielberg, may be the wrong example. It's like modern directors and the craft is still there, but the filmmaker energy is kind of faded into obscurity because they've done so many films. With George Miller, you're just like, oh shit. This guy knows how to make you feel a lot of things at once, and there's so much going on in that aspect. I don't know how I really feel about this film because I want to see more films like it, if that makes sense. If every director was like, oh, we're going to copy this format, I would be okay with that, but a lot of stuff in this film, it's really weighty dialogue delivered with an audience expectation that's not there anymore, and I just think it loses itself kind of in the third act. But it's still very interesting. So this is a Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba-led film. The story is pretty much Tilda Swinton's a modern woman who has everything she wants, and she finds a magical lamp, genie, and guess what? We're going to go into the history of what happened to the Djinn to get him to where he is. And it's kind of cool. I like that format. I think it works for this kind of a story because it's supposed to be like a cautionary tale. It plays itself off like this is like a fable or like an old story of folklore. It's like the genie will, I keep calling it a genie. The Djinn will tell you his like story so you know what to wish for. You don't wish him to never have existed. You don't wish him to do this and that. You see that tale unfold. And that's kind of cool. Half the film is these two named actors in bathrobes sitting in a hotel room talking. The other half is just, look at this insane shit that we put Idris in the past. Here's some weird magical beings protecting the Queen of Sheba, and then just like, what the hell? And then there's like this weird story with like these other like two brothers in this feuding war, and you're like, whoa, that's a lot. And then this genius woman with all these mathematical equations in her head who didn't really get the chance to be in the spotlight. And all of those sequences, they're so different but similar. It's like George Miller is good at so many things. So one of the things he is fantastic at is just making the weirdest movie ever. But it's cohesive. And that's the thing. Like, there's a lot going on. And there's so many of these different things in like the background with the camera movements where you can't really like pinpoint an exact thing. But you understand like, oh, this is really well done, if that makes sense. Even if it's a lot going on, you can just sit back and be like, wow, this is cool. This is insane. Like, why aren't other things looking like this? Is the graphics the best? They're not the best, but I think the way the camera works, like the old-timey feel of just like the lighting and the costuming and the way we shoot from angles helps that. If that makes sense, where it's like, okay, it doesn't look the most expensive, but if you were to throw this on and tell me it was from like the 90s or 2000s, I could believe you and be impressed. And that's the other thing about this film. It very much feels like a script he wrote in like the 90s and 2000s and never got a chance to make. I like it though. I actually really like it. There's something very cool about that energy where it's just, yeah, this is the kind of movie that studios used to make as their big blockbusters, but we don't make them anymore like this. So it's like seeing this time capsule open up in real time in modern audiences, and that's where I think a lot of people aren't going to get to it, if that makes sense. You're going to see some people be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. This is quality magic, timeless movie making. Other people are like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, this is so insane. Half of it, they're in a hotel room. The ending drags on for 30 minutes. Like, this is so weird and bizarre. And again, I'm in the middle. Because I love the filmmaking aspect of everything. It's on another level. Like, his cinematography is gorgeous. His directing is gorgeous. Everything looks great. The dialogue is so fascinating. I think it could have used another pass just to maybe tighten things up a bit. But it's also just kind of boring. And that sucks. But it's the kind of boring you're drawn to where you're like, I could watch this again. Maybe get a new feeling from it and understand something new. It's just one of those experiences that you rarely get in film anymore where it's like, this 20 years ago might have been the biggest film we ever had. You know? It's so rare to see that anymore. But it's kind of exciting. So Tilda does good. Idris does good. The costuming is insane, like I said. It's a really weird piece. Where it kind of loses me is like the last 30 minutes because it has like 4 specific moments where you think it's cutting to the ending and then it fades black and pops back and you're like, oh, okay. That's a lot of time padding. There's some weird fighting in here. There's some weird visuals in here. And it's kind of cool to see a film that is taking these chances again. Obviously, it's only George Miller that can make these things look the way they do, but it's very unique, and I do admire it for that. This is the type of film that you walk away from where you're like, oh, we're never going to do this again, are we? Because it's going to bomb. It is going to bomb, and that's a problem. And because it's going to bomb, studios are going to be like, okay, so nobody wants this. We tried it. Nobody wanted it. But kudos to him for making this thing. Anybody who can get Idris Elba shirtless for an entire movie with big pointy ears and one red streak in his beard, talking to these random people, screaming at this large woman like, you have to wish or we're all going to die, and then he ends up in the ocean and he turns... It's like, we don't do this anymore. It's cool. Kind of boring, but that's Hollywood in the late 90s, isn't it? Just a lot of good ideas that are executed bad. That's what this reminds me of, and that's kind of cool. For that aspect alone, I'm kind of excited about this film. Is it great? No. But it's interesting. I can guarantee you one thing about seeing this film. You're never going to see another film that looks like it again. It is the most unique filmmaking experience of the year, in my opinion, just in terms of like, wow, quality, but not great quality. So cool. It's just so 90s and 2000s. I kind of admire it for that. It's kind of interesting that we made that film today. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. Weird stuff. Good for you, George Miller. You're still doing the weirdest shit in the world, but we all admire you for it. I should also mention this is a like rom-com in a way. It's a romantic film. So get behind the love story that's being presented because it's secretly horny and secretly romantic. That's exciting too, because guess what? We don't do romance or horniness in movies anymore, so that's another thing to look forward to. Just a horny shirtless Elba. So 3,000 Years of Longing, I am going to give a 6 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.